Giants back home following a 2-game losing streak as they take on Todd's Commanders.
And can Mike White be the savior for the Jets this Christmas? They head into Minnesota to take on the 9-2 Vikings.
It's going to be a white Christmas, Joe. We will be joined by the greatest linebacker in the history of the New York Jets, member of their all-time team, Greg Buttle, in just a minute. But as always, we're recording from the Pix 11 Sports Department, high above 42nd Street in the heart of New York City.
This is the Pix 11 New York Sports Nation podcast.
All right, as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Since you've been around for a while now, if you haven't gotten around to rating, subscribing, reviewing, all that good stuff, why not do it now? It's the Christmas season.
Right, giving. 5 stars is the right thing to do. All right, let's bring in Greg Buttle. Greg, somehow the Jets' offense, with the same players except for one guy at quarterback, looked substantially better last week. What impressed you about Mike White versus the Bears?
Well, I think what impressed me and a lot of everybody else was when you walk around football teams and then you watch them, and all of a sudden you're watching all the games on Sunday, fans go, that looks easy. How can they do that and we don't do that? Well, that's what he did. He made it look easy, and I think that's a telling sign. And how did he make it look easy? Well, he's able to spread the ball around to 10 receivers. I mean, not 6, not 8, not 10 to 1 receiver. 10 receivers he was able to dish the ball out to. And I think what makes White good now is that he's able to, and he accurately finds everybody. And if you can do that, and especially with the small passes that you use in place of the running game, I think that's what makes good quarterbacks consistent. And I think that's what he does. I can't tell you that he's going to do it 2 games in a row, but I can tell you one thing. He's going to do his best, and I don't think he's throwing interceptions all over the lot. I think that this kid's good.
Joe, what impressed you as our Jet expert?
Well, I think that it was the perfect storm for Mike White here. You had a Bears defense that was just decimated by injury. They were down their top 2 corners coming into it. They lose Eddie Jackson. I think that they had traded away some of their best defenders, obviously, before the trade deadline. And then you throw in the fact that Mike White is a capable quarterback with a team that got a boost and some energy from the backup, as tends to happen in the NFL. And he was able to go out there and perform. Look, the biggest difference to me with him in that pocket is when he did face pressure, he didn't look to bail right away. There was a completion we were talking about before the podcast here to Tyler Conklin where he stepped up in the pocket, and I think Zach Wilson had a tendency to bail out, and he can't hit Tyler Conklin on that throw then as he's coming across the field because he'd be throwing across his body, and he wouldn't be able to see it. And so his ability to hang in the pocket, the Bears defense helped, the team stepping up and playing for him, it all came together, and he performed like we thought he could.
Mark, it was a perfect storm, as Joe just said, but it was a storm, and he still excelled through the wind and the rain. What did you see from Mike White?
Yeah, I mean, everything that Greg and Joe mentioned. I mean, there, we could spreading the football around, making it look very, very easy. I thought the other thing is that you got a sense was, I mean, football, as Greg can mention, I mean, not only have to play with athleticism, but it's played with a great amount of emotion. I thought the team got a massive bump forward. And I understand the backup quarterback, similar to when you look at Washington and Taylor Heineke. It's kind of an indictment on the leadership qualities of Carson Wentz. I think after what Zach Wilson had to say after the Patriot game, and also, you know, some of the stuff that you heard after the game in the locker room, I think this team was, you know, needed to find another direction. And I think you saw it defensively, offensively. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Mike White is beloved by his teammates. And I think you saw a really inspired Jet team that wanted to not only play well, but wanted Mike White to play really well. And he was great.
Greg, you spent a lot of time in locker rooms, obviously, as a player. When Zach Wilson came out and did not take any accountability for the loss against the Patriots, how does that affect a locker room?
Yeah, I don't know that he didn't take any responsibility.
He was asked point blank.
No, he was asked point
blank.
blank.
Any responsibility
You apologize. You want to apologize to the
Do you feel like
defense.
you let
He
the
said
defense
no,
down?
no, right. Do you feel like you let him down? He said no.
Oh, so then the words weren't responsibility. Did you let the defense down? That was the question, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't see any problem with him saying no. What he should have added was, but I let the offense down. I said defense
But
is
that lets the team down.
well, well, you can say that any way you want. You can mince words. You can, create your own scenario. But I'm telling you, from a locker room standpoint,
Right.
is that in 10 years, the offense was the offense. I mean, the defense was the defense. Look, you go do your job. We'll go do our job.
So if you did your job well as a defensive player and the offense didn't play well, you don't hold them accountable?
I did that for 10 years.
You told me you yelled at offensive players.
Well, I would.
So
but-
you
but-
did hold them accountable.
Yes, but I'm not going to
You're
hold them.
telling me
I'm
that-
not going to hold them publicly accountable for anything. And so whatever they say in
Yeah, but
public,
I'm not
you're not
saying
listening
that
to
they
me.
went to
You're
the
not listening
defense.
to
Wait,
me.
hold on. I'm not saying they went to the defensive players.
By the way, they are literally climbing over the table right now. We're
Which
gonna
is not
have
a good
Rock'em
thing for
Sock'em
me
Robots
because he was a
matchup.
linebacker at Penn State, leading tackler in Penn State history. It would not go well for me. But my question to you is they didn't go to a defensive player and say, do you hold Zach accountable? They said to Zach, do you feel like you let the defensive players down? And as a defensive player, if you were on that team and he said, no, he didn't, what would your reaction be?
How many times did you ask the defensive player, did you let the offense down? That's what I would have said, and the answer is never. It's like
No, that's not true.
That
Come
is
on, it happens
true.
all the
when?
time.
When does it
happens
happen?
all the time.
You go
When
get
it-
the quote
no,
for
no,
me.
When an
I'm just
offense-
telling
Joe's the
you.
one that asked
Wait a
the
minute.
question.
I'm just telling you.
He goes
I'm
to the locker room.
All I'm telling you
You're
is what he
asking
should have
me to-
said. What he should have said. Okay.
You don't even
That-
believe that's what he should have said. You don't believe he should have went back at the reporter and said,
That's
when
what I
was the
would've said.
last? No,
That's what I would've said.
you don't mean that.
No, what are you talking about?
Now they're
you're
going
putting
over the
words in my
table
mouth.
at each other. It's
I
not
said-
going to turn out well for Joe.
Maybe the
Moose
three
is
of
gonna
us-
be the only one.
You know what's wrong with Sari? He doesn't listen. What I said was,
Headphones on, for God's sake.
what I said was, is that Zach Wilson, when the guy asked him, do you give
you like
any
you let the
responsibility, let you let him down? And his answer was no. I said what he should have said was, no, but I did let the offense down.
Right.
That's what he should have said.
Right.
All right. So culpability is thrown at him, then he's pounced on. As it is, he's having a hard enough time proving that he can play, and he's getting paid a lot of money. And you'll have guys in the offense or the defense that are looking at it and going, "Man, I got to tell you, we got to do something about this. We're a pretty good football team." And so it comes down to it is that Saleh saw all of this. They were prepared for it. And they even prepared more for it by making Mike White available for the last 3 weeks, just in case. And so now they made the decision, and they all agreed that he should go out. And bottom line is you can argue all of that stuff that you want. Did he piss anybody off? He may have. But you know what? That's no different than anybody in any locker room. The problem is look, when you get to a point of alienation for whatever reasons, now you got to take a look at that and go, well, wait a second now. Okay, so what? He was pissed off. All right, so he said something. You can always overcome that. But now when you start being alienated about certain things, that becomes an issue. So obviously, it appeared there was some alienation going on, whether it was Elijah Moore, whether it was offensive guys or defensive guys. I don't think any defensive guy in that locker room was so offended that he didn't take responsibility. I think that they're more concerned about their own jobs and what they're doing.
No, but
That's
they
all
were,
my point.
but they were offended by the fact of how he answered that question. I think maybe the relationship with Connor Hughes, who asked the question, maybe the fact that knowing his personality, he would probably answer it in that way. What we learned afterward is his father had to text him to be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Responding to the question in that way. Saleh after the game said that furthest thing from my mind is a quarterback change, meets the media on Monday and said basically everything's on the table because of Wilson's response. And also the other thing that would be troubling was it was that opponent. It was yet another loss to New England. It was his teammates throwing their helmets on the sideline after the game. And as a quarterback, you have to be an inherent leader and be able to read the room of what the hell is going on around your team.
Without a question. I'm
And
not
he
debating
is,
that.
No, I know you're not.
Yeah.
I know you're not. And I think that's what led to it. And I think that's what led to it to where he's saying, we got to get more We all understand that with the talent of Zach Wilson, the offense has got to do more than what it's doing right now. Let's go in another direction with Mike White. Give him an opportunity. Even though we still highly invested in Zach Wilson, but for all of those instances, I think that's what led ultimately to the decision. And as Joe mentioned, it was a soft landing spot, had to deal with the rain, but the Bears' defense isn't particularly good. And now he gets another defense in this week in Minnesota that the Jets should be able to move the football on the Minnesota Vikings.
And two things on that. What Garrett Wilson said after that game is what you wanted to hear from your quarterback, right? They put up 2 yards of offense in the second half. That's not good enough. And that's what Garrett Wilson said, not Zach Wilson. And the team kind of rallied behind that. And obviously, that juxtaposed with what Zach Wilson said, the timing was just, we're on 2 different pages.
I don't disagree with any of that.
The other thing is, though, the ability to bench the number 2 overall pick in his second year, right, is, from a coaching standpoint, not something to take lightly in all of this. Because, one, the GM, anytime a team, a franchise, invests a number 2 overall pick in a quarterback, you're expecting that guy to come and turn around the team. Especially when it's the Jets, who are just coming off Sam Darnold's tenure here, where they don't have a good track record, right? There is pressure on this front office. Guys like Garrett Wilson, this draft class, Breece Hall, now he's injured, obviously, Sauce Gardner, I think helped this regime in Saleh and Douglas make this decision, be able to make this decision, because they've proven we can draft, we can evaluate talent, right? That gives them some leeway and some shielding of, we messed up with this Zach Wilson pick overall at number 2.
Okay, so Coach Saleh makes the announcement in front of the team on Wednesday. Zach Wilson comes after him, addresses the team. I read that it was emotional, his addressing the team. My question, starting with Mr. Buttle, is that the first step in him possibly getting his starting job back? And when do you ever foresee that happening without, obviously, an injury to Mike White? Is it his job the rest of the year?
Well, again, the mea culpa is what it is. The question remains is that there's a lot to do with this young man changing a lot of things, which is whether it's his footwork, it's his pass, it's his brain. It's all between his ears. There's no question, because the kid's got nothing but ability. So it's all between his ears. Can he reset all of that and understand what it means to be a starting quarterback, the work that you have to put in, when you have to be at the place, how you have to talk to everyone, how you have to support your offensive line, how you got to talk to your receivers every single time? I don't know a lot of these things are happening or not happening because I'm not in the locker room. But my point is that from every quarterback that's played this game, that starts with the quarterback as the leader, whether they're the captain or not. On field, that guy is the leader. And if you're having issues yourself, personal issues with other guys, or just physical issues or mental issues, well, then you got to have a problem. I don't think, going back to the end of your question, that you'll see him this year, unless there's an injury to Mike White or the Jets end up not making the playoffs. If the Jets are out of the playoffs and there's 2 games to go, I think you could see Zach Wilson again.
Well, and Greg, I think you hit upon, I think the case now is what changed is put everything and all the drama with Wilson, performance, answer the Patriot question is the team's ready to win. Like, the defense is ready to win. They've got enough on this team, as we've seen all season long, to win. They're a live dog on the road this week in Minnesota against the Vikings. So they could not afford to sit there and hope and pray that Wilson, the light bulb, would all of a sudden come on when they looked at the backup quarterback and said, he's good enough. Because you're also looking at a coaching staff and the LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, whatever you want to say about Jimmy Garoppolo. They were able to win a lot of games in San Francisco with Jimmy Garoppolo as a quarterback because of the offense that they ran, the playmakers that they had. And they said, well, now we got a quarterback in Mike White that we believe that we can win because the rest of the team is ready to win.
No, I think the Jimmy Garoppolo comparison is interesting, right? Because there's a lot of talk about, is Jimmy G going to be here next year? There was talk about, was he going to be here this year? But those quarterbacks, I feel like they get overlooked, right? There are certain quarterbacks in this league, right? I think Alex Smith was another one of them. You get labeled as a game manager. All those guys do is win, right? They've won everywhere they've gone, but there's some sexier, new draft pick that they want to replace him with. It happened with Kyle Kaepernick to Alex Smith, and then Patrick Mahomes, which obviously, turned
that worked out.
It's looking like he's going to be good. And the thing this year with Jimmy G was it's Trey Lance, right, who's going to replace him. Obviously he gets hurt, and Jimmy G just goes out there and wins. Now look, they have a roster around them to support them. The San Francisco 49ers with Alex Smith had a good roster. They do have one now with Jimmy G. The Jets have a very good roster, right? And it's just, Moose said it, they're ready to win now.
Okay, so we all agree the Jets' defense is excellent, and they have playmakers. Do they have the quarterback of the future on their roster? Can or is Mike White or Zach Wilson possibly the quarterback of the future, Joseph?
I think that when you talk future, right, in the NFL, 2-3 years is a long time down the road. Zach Wilson's on his rookie deal, so I don't think he's going anywhere. We saw the issue with Josh Rosen, right, where he was traded. The Arizona Cardinals used a top 10 pick on him. They moved him. Didn't work out anywhere. So I don't know that there's going to be a lot of value in trading Zach Wilson. That gives him some time to figure it out with this team. But Jet fans, you hope that Mike White is the quarterback of the future because he's here, and that means he continues to win now. Because this team is built to win now. So if he goes out there and has, and I hate that we do this, we throw guys like Jimmy G under the bus here. If he has Jimmy G-like numbers and the team just wins, well, then he's going to go out there and get a shot, and he should get his shot. The team is rallied around him. So I think that in the short term, yes, one of these two guys will be leading the Jets in the 2 to 3 year term.
So let's just understand one thing, too. The numbers Mike White puts up is not Jimmy Garoppolo numbers, nor was
better.
That's what my point is.
Yeah.
And they're not Alex Smith numbers. That's not a game manager. This guy can play. And that's the exciting thing about Jet fans and what they're looking. And they're saying, whispering it to each other, how come they didn't see this earlier? And, well, they did it last year. And so the point being is, well, last year, and it appeared that it was an anomaly, his game, because he went out and threw 4 interceptions against Buffalo, albeit they were down 23-3 against a team that was going, they were 7-6 at the time and ended up being 11-6, and of course, the history of the Bills. So I look at Mike White, until he proves that he's not going to be able to do it, he's my guy.
Do you think they had too quick a hook with him last year, though? Because that Bills game, yes, the Bills were the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL.
Well, he could have been injured.
He had a very good, start to the game against Indianapolis, where he did get injured. So do you think he could have been injured in the Bills game?
Yeah.
And so that might be the
reason. They could have. And again, it's just like anything else. You don't know what coaches are thinking. But you don't know. Well, we got to get Zach Wilson back in there. We got to put someone in. I don't know how they think. And last year was a different year. They weren't expected to do anything other than find out information. So there were information data gathering. And so they did. And then this year, you look at they had, and I think the biggest mistake was preseason not being able to play. And you had Streveler play, and you had Mike White play, and Zach.
Who did not look great in the preseason, by the way, Mike White.
No, he didn't. But again, it's just like anything else, is that once this season begins, and the Jets' defense was terrible in the first 3 games.
Yep.
That preseason of young kids, you just have no idea. Then all of a sudden, oh, look, that kid can play. Oh, DJ Reed, oh my God, he's as good as the other. Look at this guy. Look at whole of you. Well, our defensive line is pretty good. Now things change. Now we change. All right, okay, there's going to be a short shift in here. But get Mike White. Zach's not coming around. Get Mike White off of the taxi squad. Get him up here on the second team, and let's get him prepared just in case. And then just in case happened. So everyone knew this was going to happen. Everyone knew in that front office that this was what was going to happen. And I think even Zach Wilson might have known it, because I think the pressure was getting to him. He just kept getting worse. He didn't get better.
Moose. Is there a franchise quarterback on the Jets roster?
I think it's a possibility. I wouldn't guarantee it. I think there are a lot of things to like about White as a quarterback. I don't think the Jets are going to give up on Wilson anytime soon. I also think it depends on what happens in the offseason and who's available.
All right, so let me ask you a question, because that's it's a loaded question. When's the last franchise quarterback the Jets had? In your opinion, what do you? He was a franchise quarterback.
I think so, 100%.
Okay, and
100%.
And I love Chad, and he was a great player. But
Underrated.
what happened with the Jets under him?
Well, injuries.
Okay, so franchise quarterbacks are quarterbacks that, as from what you're saying, are Super Bowl champions. That's a franchise quarterback.
Well, he
Can
didn't
lead
say
you-
that.
No, he's
Yeah.
intimidating that.
I don't know. I think it's is it going to be the quarterback that leads your team
Yes.
for a long period? I mean, Dan
Right.
Marino was a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
never
And
won
he
a Super
didn't
Bowl.
win a
He went to
Super
one, though.
Bowl.
All right.
Yeah, but who did he play?
Montana and the Niners.
Well, that's not going to work out for him.
No, I
right.
understand that. Yeah.
Well, all I'm saying is, what is the definition of franchise quarterback? A guy that's just going to hold the job until you get another guy, or the one that you really think is taking you to the promised land?
Right, but Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl championship.
With an all-time great defense.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
But I'm saying, but you need a competent quarterback.
But that's
Yeah.
not. Is that a franchise quarterback?
A
is
franchise
what I'm
quarterback
Somebody
is the
that's
guy
gonna
who's not.
be- yes.
that you believe
You
you,
are not
can
gonna
win the Super
pull
Bowl
him.
with. I don't think
Right.
anybody
franchise-
can.
And he is your guy come hell or high water.
But yeah, I mean, to
So-
me, the easy answer is the franchise quarterback. He's the reason. Whether you win a Super Bowl or not, he's the reason why
yeah,
you
but
believe
not
that.
if you have a defense like you said.
But Trent Dilfer's not a franchise quarterback, nor was Brad Johnson. He was not a franchise quarterback.
was in DC.
Jim McMahon with the Chicago Bears was good. That was not a. I mean, they
Yeah, but
the
a
46
franchise
defense and
quarterback-
Walter
right.
Payton.
But if you have a defense as good as the Jets
I asked the
defense
right
could
question,
be,
is what I'm saying.
yeah, you did
You've
a great
started a
job.
great debate.
Mark, if you have a
Now sneak
defense
out.
as good as the Jets defense can be,
Right.
because they're young, you need a solid quarterback that's going to be your quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years. He is your leader. He is the guy. He's not going to make the mistakes. He's not going to lose your games because the defense is going to win you games. Do we have a guy that's going to be the quarterback for the next 3 years on your roster right now?
Yeah, I don't know that answer.
Well, I don't know either. That's why I went to the expert.
No,
I'm trying to
I
tell.
asked Buttle.
What's the
you
parameters?
guys are the expert.
I don't
The
know.
parameters to me is here's a franchise quarterback to me. Give me a quarterback that's going to throw for over 300 yards 6 straight games. That's a franchise quarterback because I can deal with the other games around there. Is he going to turn the ball over? That's not my franchise quarterback. But if you could give me a quarterback, the game is throw the ball. It's not run the ball. It's throw the ball. Franchise quarterback, got to throw it. Got to throw it in the window. Have to. The last 2 minutes of a game to me are as important
Yes.
as anything in the world.
That's a
when you
franchise
know.
quarterback.
Thank you
Right.
very.
To me.
Now you know you have a
They're gonna
franchise
win the
quarterback.
game for
That's
you.
correct. When everyone in that stadium is going, oh, it's okay. Mike White's behind the center.
So with 2 minutes to go, speaking of franchise quarterbacks, they got one in Minnesota. The guy came out of D.C., the legend, Captain Kirk, and you know he's going to score points. Buttle says to win a game, you got to score more than 23 points. How on earth do the Jets keep it to 23, hold down Justin Jefferson and the great Captain Kirk?
Well, there's no reason to think they can't. I mean, this defense matches up well with anybody, and that no disrespect to Minnesota, who has one of the most talented offenses in the league, and obviously one of the most talented wide receivers in Justin Jefferson. But for all the talk about Robert Saleh and how much we pounded on him last year in this defense and how atrocious it was, I don't think he gets enough credit for how good this defense is right now, right? I don't think Joe Douglas is getting more of the credit for bringing in the players. That's part of it. Like, don't get me wrong, obviously, but he's done a fantastic job, right? This defense they match up so well, in my opinion, with Minnesota because it's going to be fun to see. You want to make it Sauce Gardner against Justin Jefferson, but
Yes, I do.
But it's not going to be that.
You did yesterday
It's not going
at
to be solely
6
that. It's
o'clock
going to
on
be the
Pix
whole
11.
Jets secondary, right? It's going to be
Great
DJ
package,
Reed too.
by the way.
Thank you very much.
Tune in and watch.
He doesn't get enough credit, right? DJ Reed on the other side of Sauce Gardner, and this whole
He's
secondary
good.
has done a fantastic job. Michael Carter also in their secondary. They're all doing a very good job, and it really is a team defense. They get timely sacks. Quinnen Williams is a beast in the interior of that line. This is a team defense that I think can slow down Minnesota.
I will say, and just add this before, because I got to go. The New York Jets defense, you take away that first 3 games when they were all learning together. This is number 1 defense in the NFL right now. I mean, what they do, they're top 5, and they're in the top 5 in like 4 different categories. And that's with those first 3 games.
And that was and a lot of that wasn't even talent. It was just miscommunication, right? The big plays that they gave up
correct.
is because you had young players who didn't know, they weren't communicating with the secondary.
So to me, I look forward to them playing anybody. I don't care who it is. And Kirk Cousins doesn't scare me against this Jets defense.
He should. So as Buttle puts on his vest, who's going to win? Mr. Buttle, who's going to win?
I like the Jets, and I like them by more than 8.
Moves.
Wow. I like the Jets this week as well. I take them plus the points, and I think they win the game outright.
Joe.
Jets are going to win this game by a field goal.
Wow. I love Captain Kirk. I love Justin Jefferson. I love them losing by a field goal with the gun. Jets win. On to the Giants. Ladies and gentlemen, we got rid of Greg Buttle. Let's talk about the real game. The traditional matchup, the NFC East. Commanders, Giants. Oh, wait.
Doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right at all. It's terrible. Can I say Washington, New York?
Yes,
that sounds better.
That sounds better.
It's still not traditional. But it's two very good teams, two teams with a shot to get into the playoffs. And let's talk about this game because this will go a long way towards determining the playoffs, as will the back-to-back for the Commanders because they have a bye week, and the Giants have the NFCs for 3 straight weeks. Strength versus strength. Saquon Barkley versus Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. First-round draft picks of the Washington Commanders, that stout run defense. What do you guys expect, Moose?
I think the Giants are going to try and run it. I think they'll use misdirection. I think it's more on Daniel Jones this week than it is probably on Saquon Barkley to raise his game to another level. They'll try and push the ball down the field if weather is not an issue Sunday at MetLife as well. When you look at the Giants, the one thing is I think you've learned about this coaching staff is they're really good at game planning and putting their team in the best possible position to be successful. It's not a case of this is what we do, this is the only thing that we do. You've seen that adjustment all season long from Martindale on defense, Kafka and Daboll on offense, the leadership of this staff. So Giants get a little bit healthier this week with I think the mini bye after the Cowboy loss on Thanksgiving comes at the right time. I think you have concerns because the Washington team has won 6 of 7 coming into the matchup, and they played really well for Taylor Heineke.
Joseph.
The health is going to be the biggest thing in this one for me because the Giants, Moose outlined it, the coaching staff has done a fantastic job this year. It seemed like a blowout against the Cowboys, but let's not forget, if they don't have that touchdown called back in the beginning of the game, if they have 11 guys on the field, which is the one thing maybe I'll say at the coach
that's
there,
helpful.
Right, on that 4th down play to Saquon Barkley, he catches it, maybe it's a different game. And they were decimated with injury in that one. So the fact that they went out there and I think showed that they weren't going to back down from anybody, even as shorthanded as they were, was the most impressive part of that. Now, hopefully, after 10 days, they go and get a little bit healthier because they need to be healthy, especially on the front against this Washington's front. If you don't have Evan Neal back, I think you're going to be in for a very long day, and especially if Chase Young comes back, as he has a chance to do this weekend.
So despite my big build-up, Atlanta gashed Washington last weekend. How'd they do it? They had a mobile quarterback in Mariota. Guess what? The Giants have a mobile quarterback. This is a copycat league. Mark Malusis.
Yes.
What did the Giants learn from what Atlanta did to Washington and their effectiveness in their running game?
Yeah, I think you're going to see them use Daniel Jones and put him on the edge and put him on the outside like they've done a lot. I think they'll use the misdirection, maybe the speed and the aggressiveness of the Washington defense against them, try and get them caught off balance. I think that's the thing that's impressed you about this staff is that they look at players and accentuate what they can do, not complain about what they can't do. And that's a good coaching staff. So I think listen, Jones is not the scrambler that Mariota, but Mariota is also not the passer that Daniel Jones is down in Atlanta, even though I like Marcus Mariota a lot. So I think they'll go to work on that, what Atlanta was able to do against Washington and be able to utilize that. I think you'd get concerned about this Giant defense with the guys that are out on this defense and how they're going to be able to slow down what Washington, if Taylor Heineke is on one of those games where he's playing well, how they slow down the Washington offense as well.
So I think you can confuse Taylor Heineke, right? He has shown a propensity to turn the ball over at times. And I look at the play against the Cowboys where it looked like they had a robber underneath, and Dak, I don't know what happened on that play, didn't see the safety there, ended up throwing the interception. I think they're going to have to disguise a lot of that coverage, which Wink Martindale can do. And I think they're going to need a good game from the front. And getting Azeez Ojulari back should be a big bolster to that defensive line, which is going to need to put pressure on. You talk about Atlanta gashing Washington last week. They put up 13 points, right?
Yeah,
what you do in between the 20s.
No,
and I get it. And
Washington
Washington
showed that Washington can be run on. And leading up to that game, the prevailing thought was they cannot be run on. And I feel like they've got a similar type of offense. And I think that doesn't bode well for Washington.
Well, I think we've heard, Buttle talking about the running game a lot. Running when you need
Buttle
to.
talks
running
a lot about a lot of things.
Running inside the 20s is going to be the big thing. Running when you need that first down. That didn't work out in the red zone for Atlanta last week.
Right, but also, if Payne doesn't get his big mid up at the end of the game, Washington loses. So he deflects the ball. Fuller comes up with the interception. Otherwise, they lose that game.
Yeah.
So they did march up and down the field. But I do see that, everybody comes in, the mindset is that Washington's defense is as good as the Jets and one of the best in the league. I just think that they showed an Achilles heel last week, which Daniel Jones might be able to, and Saquon Barkley might
take
be
advantage
able
of.
to take advantage of. But my question to you, Mark, is Saquon hurt?
No, I think everyone's a little bit banged up.
Yeah, but is he more than a little bit?
No, I don't think so.
Then why is his
I don't
production
know. That's a great
but
question.
Mark, you know everything.
Well, no, because part of the reason that
doesn't he? Joe, you agree with that, right?
Yes,
he does.
Absolutely.
That's why we hired him. We love the Moose.
No, but
Moose
he hasn't had a lot of. He didn't look great against Detroit. Didn't look great against Dallas. I'm
Right.
not. Yeah. So maybe it's the offensive line. Like I don't think he's all of a sudden
Maybe
hampered by
Evan
some
Neal, like
significant
Joe said.
injury. Yes.
Yeah, so part of it is the offensive line
You
going
guys are
down.
really
Part of it
smart.
is the
People
injury
should
at wide
listen to this
receivers.
podcast.
When you can go and play man coverage
Right,
on your
right,
wide
right,
receivers and you
right.
can put 8
Yeah.
in the box, it becomes a lot more difficult. What did the Giants come out and do against the Cowboys? They faked the ball. First play of the game, they faked the ball to Saquon Barkley. They hit the tight end coming across opposite direction, goes for I think 30 yards in the opening play of the game. Right? They used him as a decoy because that's what the defense is expecting. Saquon is what they're keying on. Teams are just trying to take him away because he's what the most explosive weapon for the Giants right now.
So the 2026 Hall of Fame class includes Mike White and Taylor Heineke.
That's it.
Taylor Heineke, of course, is 5-1 as a starter, but he is a little girl with the curl. Sometimes he's great, but he makes horrific mistakes at really bad times. The Giants' defense is good. Wink is smart as a whip. What do you think they can do against Tyler to try to take advantage of him?
I think what Joe hit upon trying to confuse him a little bit with some of their coverages, get pressure on them. Quarterbacks never react well when they're getting consistent pressure, especially up the middle. I think
He is good on the run.
Yeah, he is. That's fair. I think he's going to be who he
why he
is.
plays.
I think Taylor
Wentz
Heineke's
can't move.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think
a statue back
I think
there.
Heineke's going to be who he is. I think there's going to be opportunities for the Giants defense to make plays on the football. I don't think he's all of a sudden. Now the question is, do they? Do they come up with that 50-50 ball? Do they come up with when he puts it into a tight window? Do the Giants defense able to knock it down on a 3rd and long or a 3rd and 5, whatever it might be? That's going to be, because I don't think he's all of a sudden going to change. There's a reason why Washington went out and got Carson Wentz and tried to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, even though they had Taylor Heineke in the building, is because
Russell
they looked at
Wilson.
they
tried to get everybody.
they
anybody.
looked at the limitations of Taylor Heineke. Now the team loves him and they've responded and they play hard for him. That's a credit to Taylor Heineke's leadership. But talent-wise, I think there's a ceiling to what he is. And I think now the question is, do the Giants take advantage of some of those decisions that he's going to make on Sunday? Because I don't think there's any doubt when you sit down and watch this game, he's going to put some footballs up for grabs.
The question is, do the Giants have the horses in the secondary to be able to go and take advantage of those 50-50 balls? I
Not
mean,
having Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney.
And you've got a special teams player guarding C.D. Lamb last week,
Yes.
right? Like, it's
Washington
a tough
does
matchup.
have a lot of
And
weapons.
Terry McLaurin is proved
Terry's
to be one of
great.
the
Scary
number
Terry.
one wide receivers.
Yes.
It is scary. Right, 100%. Here's the thing, though. I don't think either offense is going to score more than 20 points. So the question
First
is...
to 20 wins this one.
Low
Yes.
scoring game.
Very low scoring. So I think it's going to come down to the big mistake. And sadly, I think Taylor Heineke is always good to make that big mistake. What do you guys think will be the key to this game, and who do you think is going to win?
I think the key is I think the key is Jones for the Giants. I think if he plays really well, I think the Giants are going to win. I know it's an easy answer when you look at the quarterback. He's proved a lot of people wrong this year. There might be another level that he needs to get to for this team to get to the playoffs, because it's a little bit more of a daunting task and schedule and dealing with the injuries down the stretch here. I think Jones is going to have to play clean, smart, and he has for the most part this season. I think also putting the ball in playmakers' hands,
But who? Like who did?
Well, I think it's Slayton. I think it's
Barkley.
I think it's Barkley. I think getting Bellinger back at tight end, I think it's going to help. He's coming back from that orbital fracture that he suffered in the Jacksonville game. He showed himself to be a guy that he trusted inside the 20-yard line in the red zone and other parts of the field. I think, to me, the key is going to be the play of the quarterback in Jones. And can Jones go out there and outplay Taylor Heineke? I think he does, and I think the Giants win.
Just terrible. All that talk to give me a Giant win? That's
I think
terrible.
the Giants are going to win.
Yeah, you're out of your mind, Joseph.
I think that the key to this one is going to be coaching. I'm going to give the edge to Brian Daboll and his coaching
Not
staff.
over the great Ron
Over
Rivera.
the great
Over Riverboat Ron.
Riverboat Ron,
Yes.
who overcame cancer.
Yeah,
Who
great.
not only that, but took a Panther team to the Super Bowl in their third year. This is his third year with the Commanders, and you're taking a first-year every man's coach,
Yeah.
who just got to have his pickup truck.
He's looked fantastic.
He really has.
He's
Good
looked
point, Joe.
absolutely fantastic,
That's a
and I
good
think
point,
he's
Joe.
going to make the right play down the stretch. And you know what? I'll give you another X factor too. Is Graham Gano, because the guy's automatic.
Gano.
And if it
Graham
comes
He was
Gano.
in DC. Oh, no, Gano.
I think this is going to be.
He's terrible.
This is going to be a very close game. I think it's going to come down to a kick, late in this one, and I'll put my money on Graham.
Okay,
Gano.
I take Joey Sly in that. My God. In the rain, he hit a 58-yarder.
Now, Todd, the most
Yes.
obvious answer today. Who are you taking?
What do you mean, who am I taking? Who do I take every week? The G-Men. Who do I take this week? Take command, hashtag the Commanders.
I know that. I know.
Yeah.
It's very
Commanders
nice.
are going to win.
Yeah, you're gonna pick against the Giants twice. This
What
season.
jersey will you be wearing at WPIX on Sunday?
You guys are going to love it.
Chase Young?
No. I wore Chase Young. I got Scary Terry. So Scary Terry is the burgundy. Chase Young is the white. I am breaking out the brand new, just arrived, alternate black, Jonathan, #1 draft pick, Allen, who's going to stop Barkley on Sunday. Thank you.
Does
Come to
anyone
Pix
buy
11.
more Washington gear than you?
Does anybody buy
I
Washington
know.
gear other than Todd?
Well, but I buy it for Jagger too, and Debbie. All three of
See,
us have
you
the
buy-
Scary Terry.
Oh, I know. Do
And-
all
and-
three of you have the white?
Nah, you
Do
know
all
what?
three? Did you?
Hanukkah's
How about the
coming.
black?
Hanukkah is coming, okay?
Which jersey's your favorite?
The new black is sweet. And I don't think Jonathan Allen gets enough credit. So I am proud.
Yeah, because
to wear
defensive
his-
tackles are a really popular jersey.
That,
around the
exactly.
league.
But I'm telling you, him and Deron Payne might be the most valuable players
No, he's
on
been
the Washington
great.
franchise. He's been great.
So you're going to be wearing that Sunday.
Yeah, I will be wearing that Sunday with pride.
What's your? Will you? If the Giants win, will it bring you to tears?
It's possible. if Ono Cano beats us at the gun, it'll be heartbreaking. Yes, it may cry. Look, if Zach Wilson, the leader of the Jets, can cry in a
Yes,
team meeting,
yes.
I can cry in front of you guys. I love you guys.
Well, I'm glad that you feel comfortable crying in front
Yeah,
of
of course,
us.
in front of you
And-
guys.
That's
yes,
it.
Absolutely.
and whoever listens to the podcast. I'll cry in front of you guys, too. We'll have a podcast Sunday night, a quick wrap-up of the game.
Well, listen, honestly, I think right now this game, both of these teams, they got two matchups. Both of these teams need this game if they're going to make
Need
the
it.
playoffs.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is what it comes
gonna be a
down
fun
to.
one.
Be an appropriate time
Yeah.
to cry.
That's
yes,
it.
exactly.
Anyway, go Giants.
Yeah, and thank you for listening. and by the way, Mark's a Commanders fan. And watch Sunday night.
Yes, we have New York Sports Nation, 11 o'clock Sunday
Sweeney
night.
Murdy.
And yes, Sweeney Murdy will
All
be
the
joining us.
inside word on the Yankees.
And
Aaron Judge.
and we got the New York Blitz Saturday night at 10:30.
We certainly do. Joseph, you have anything to say about that show? Who are our guests?
I'm gonna see if we can get as many zeros in my contract as Aaron Judge is gonna get in his.
Oof,
So
Oh, look
we'll
at that.
see.
Oof,
I'll take like a zero that falls off of his
Right,
contract. How
exactly.
about that?
I know.
Just one.
Right, I'll take the money that falls out of his pocket.
Take some
The
change.
Briggs, from the back of the Briggs truck, right?
Be a great
Yes.
show, and Misery loves company. So Todd would be happy if you joined us on
Yes,
Sunday.
because these two guys will be miserable, even though Mark is playing for both teams.
I'll see you.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Man loves the bus balls.
All right.
Very nice.
Thank you.